Our last speaker is Hillary Murphy. She's in the Health and Wellness Promotion Department. Her advisor is Amina Batata, and her title, Friends of Western North Carolina Markets Membership and Farming Class Programs.
Hi guys, I'm Hillary Murphy. As was just said, I'm a Health and Wellness Promotion Major, and my focus has been on working with health disparities and promoting local food. So the project that I did this summer and this semester has been called the Friends of Western North Carolina Markets. So the overview of my presentation today is going to be, we're talking about the goals of my project, the social business aspect of it, the local social problem I addressed, the proposed business solution, and then the next steps to implementation. So the project that I was given over this summer was to be part of a social business competition that was hosted by Professor Muhammad Yunus, who won the Nobel Peace Prize a few years ago for his social business. So what I was supposed to do is find a community issue that was important to the people in Buncombe County and figure out how to address it by creating a social business model. So to do this, I worked with a team of 5 different students, and we each went out into the community and found our own issues and tried to come up with ideas for social businesses. And then from all of those, we chose one to bring to the competition, and that was my idea. So I want to talk to you guys first about what a social business is. And what it is a company that's designed to address a social objective. And so where a nonprofit would not make any profit, obviously, by the name, this company would actually make a really small profit, and then they would take that money and put it into expanding their reach or expanding their product or whatever they're trying to do with their social program. So when we saw Professor Muhammad Yunus speak, one of the things that he said was this business is created to fill a need, not make money. So even though it is generating revenue, that revenue goes completely back into the company itself. All right, so when I started this project, I had to do a lot of literature reviews, and I had to do a lot of research with the community to figure out what I actually wanted to focus on. So after looking at a lot of different articles and talking with a lot of people, especially from the Appalachian Sustainable Agriculture Program, which I will call ASAP from now on because it's a mouthful, I figured out that one of the things that's really big in our county is food insecurity. About 1 in 6 people in Buncombe County right now are food insecure, which is a huge number considering that we produce a lot of the country's food in this region. So when I was asking questions for this project, I really wanted to think about what's important to the locals here. I think it's important when you're creating a project to really make sure that you pay attention to the community and what they want, and you don't go in with just your own ideas of what you think would be best for people. So I also need to do research on what kind of programs already exist, how you can actually make revenue from a program in Buncombe County, and especially what organizations could be resources and partners, and that's where ASAP really came in to help a lot for me. So the social program that I really focused on was that we have a lot of really great farmers markets in this area that offer really good options for healthy food choices, but if they're not equipped to accept electronic benefit transfer cards, then families of low income who are on food and nutrition services programs don't have access to these foods. So what an EBT card is it's like the new version of food stamps. So instead of having a stamp, you just have a card that you swipe, and it looks a lot like an EBT or a debit or a credit card. So it reduces the stigma of actually using them. You don't stand in line, you don't have to go get the general manager to come help. It's just swiping a card, and people don't even tell the difference. So in June of 2012, it was found that in Buncombe County, 39,454 individuals were on food and nutrition services programs. So this is a lot of people that have potential to be affected by markets actually accepting EBT. So the requirements for an EBT program at farmers markets comes out to about $5,000 in total for the first year with the startup costs and everything. And then after that, there's just the cost to maintain the market manager and the transaction fees. So in the first year, you have to purchase a machine, obviously, and then you also have to purchase tokens, and that's about $1,600. The market manager is in charge of doing things like recording all the data, reimbursing farmers for the tokens, handing out the tokens, pretty much just running the program, because currently there are 2 markets in Asheville that have an EBT program, and they're run a lot by volunteers, which is really difficult because it's not as reliable. And also there's a training process that has to happen over and over again rather than having one person who knows exactly what they're doing. So there is a transaction fee associated, and this is because we want the machines to also accept credit and debit. So you can use your EBT card, your credit, or your debit card and get tokens in return at the market. And again, that's to reduce the stigma of standing in this line. We don't want people to feel like they're standing in a line that's just made up of people on EBT. We want it to be indistinguishable. So the goal that we came up with was to increase the availability of EBT machines at farmers markets in the Western North Carolina area. So the proposed social business that we came up was a program that has two different parts. So as the overall program, it's called Friends of Western North Carolina Markets, and the two sub-programs are the Market Membership Program and the Farming Class Program. So in the Market Membership, they have a yearly sliding scale that you pay to be a member, and then you get benefits such as a bumper sticker, get to know your farmer fact sheet, and name in a local newspaper ad. So this was another one of the places where I talked to a lot of people in the community and did research with other programs around the country. And it seemed to be that a lot of people were looking for recognition out of the membership more than almost anything else. So to feel like they have that sense of community, to see their names with names of other people that they know. So I think the newspaper ad was a really big thing for a lot of people. So for the farming class program, we have downloadable farming classes that are offered online, and you pay $2 per download. And these are going to be classes that are taught by the farmers themselves. And so they're going to be really applicable to people living in Western North Carolina because they'll address problems like that you commonly run into planting in our soil or when we have a drought, things that actually happen in North Carolina for people planting in North Carolina. So just to break down the programs a little bit, the Friends of the Western North Carolina Market Membership Program, our target population in the first year is weekly market members, and this is because they're going to be the people that tend to see the advertising most. In a study that ASAP did, they looked at 7 local markets, and they found that 2,000 people came about per week, and 46.1% of those were weekly attendees. So those are the people we're trying to reach in the first year. So for revenue, of course, comes from the membership, and the way that we predicted how much money we would earn from the sliding scale membership is we looked at another ASAP survey that broke down how much money people spent per week. So they had a 0 to 5 category, 6 to 10, and then so on. And so the percent of people that paid each of those, we put into the percent that would be able to pay that much for one yearly fee. So if somebody was able to spend $5 per week, that's how much they would pay for a membership or be able to pay for a membership. So the launch requirements include advertising, managing the memberships, and paying for the benefits, and this comes out to about $1,739.30. So the net revenue here is about $14,606.70. So for the Friends of Western North Carolina Markets Farming Class Program, our target is again the weekly market attendees, but this time we wanted to focus on the people who cited access and availability as a key barrier in the survey that ASAP did last year. And so those people were 24.7% of the weekly attendees. We also wanted to focus on offering this to Buncombe County schools because that's over 40 schools that we have an option to offer this to. And so that would be for a $100 seasonal membership. And the reason we think that people would be interested is because right now 11% of the budget for Buncombe County schools is dictated towards going towards keeping students active, healthy, and culturally aware. So that's, in the scheme of things, a lot of money, and $100 is not a very large chunk of that. So in the first year, we'd offer 10 videos, and videos, of course, would be $2 per download. So the revenue from this would be coming from the downloading of the market membership, and it would be about $8,560. The launch requirements would be advertising, filming and editing equipment, website creation, class materials, in time, and downloading service fees. So the nice thing about this program is we've spoken with a lot of the multimedia students at UNCA, and we've actually gotten commitment to volunteer for the filming and editing, and we've also got commitment from the farmers to do the class time and the materials. So a lot of those costs are donated, which is really great. So the net revenue for this program is going to be $7,503.76. So another place that we're actually going to receive money for this program is from the Community Transformation Grant. And what this is the Center for Disease Control and Prevention awards a grant to a nonprofit organization that fulfills one or more of the objectives in the Healthy People or Healthy North Carolina 2020 initiative. And so for this program, it very much fulfills the initiative of increasing healthy eating. And so that's a $5,000 grant. And we've spoken with people at the health department about receiving this grant, and it looks very probable. So the total revenue for this program is $29,905.76. I'll let you read the total expenses. I won't read out all those numbers. So with all of those covered, the net revenue would be $2,110.22. And so what that net revenue would do is to go to expand our program, expand the memberships, or continue on to be put into a pot to provide more EBT systems for other markets. So for the implementation plan in the first year, we're focusing just on 7 markets. And from those 7 markets, we would be able to fund 5 EBT programs, which is perfect because 2 of those markets already have EBT programs right now. So in subsequent years, as I was just saying, we have to expand the EBT program, do more advertising to get people besides just weekly attendees to participate, get additional machines, so there's more than one machine at markets that are busier, and then expand benefits associated with the membership. So the social impact is the thing that I think is most important about this project. We really wanted to increase access of low-income families to healthy food options, and EBT does have the capacity to do that at markets. We wanted to support the local food economy and support local farmers because that's really important to the Buncombe County community in general, and it's a huge part of, I think, what makes Asheville what it is. We also wanted to cultivate a healthier and more connected community. We think that getting more people involved in the markets is really great, and we think that with the sliding scale involving people of all income levels is really important. And then we also wanted it to act as a model that other places in the state and other places in the country could use to perhaps make their own implementation programs for EBT. So again, overview of the presentation. We talked about the goals in the social business. We talked about a local social problem, a proposed business social problem, and also the next steps to implementing the program. And I wanted to give a special thanks to my team that worked with me on this and my faculty advisor, and especially to ASAP. Thank you guys. Do you have any questions? Yes.
Hi, I was wondering, once you implement this program, do you have a promotional side for EBT recipients to learn that there are going to be these new markets that accept EBT?
Yeah, that's what we're hoping to do with expanding the advertising, especially, and we've talked a lot about program ideas such as people who can not pay any money for the memberships, perhaps volunteering to go out into the community and go door to door, help with advertising and things like that. And we're also hoping that word of mouth is going to be really big for that. And then another program we were talking about is having a mentoring thing where somebody else on EBT brings in someone they know on EBT, shows them how to do things so it's a little less intimidating to come into the markets, because it is a little intimidating to go in and try to figure out how to use a machine and all of that. So I think that would be a good way to deal with that. Yes?
Well, at these local markets, the food that you're getting is usually local and organic, and you pay a premium for that. Is, I mean, these EBT cards can be used at supermarkets where you can buy conventional produce, fresh produce, at a much cheaper price. Has there been a call from communities that have a lot of food insecurity to have greater access to local food, local organic food?
I haven't done research in Buncombe County itself, but in looking at some of the research from other communities around the country, there are a lot of programs with the market membership and EBT and everything, where if you're the first 10 to 20 people who come to use your EBT for that day, you get an extra like $10 token. And so there's a lot of promotional things like that that encourage people, and through that there is a greater need or demand for market fresh produce. So I think it depends kind of how you package the deal of like what goes along with using your EBT. And we've also spoken with farmers about possibly doing their own kind of benefit system where things are a little bit cheaper if you're using your tokens and things like that.
Yeah, the Clark Farm out in Fairview is a pretty significant farm for about 5 generations. Have you bounced this off them?
I have not. I've spoken with a couple different farms. I've spoken with Cane Creek and Flying Cloud and Mountain Harvest Organic, and that's about it.
Have you, aside from ASAP, have you spoken with any like local business groups or just private businesses within the Asheville area that might be willing to, that would be willing to or are able to assist in the setup of this program and maybe pushing its expansion?
We haven't really spoken to many local businesses. We've worked with the health department quite a bit. Terry March Zimmerman is one of the people who heads in the health department, and we have worked with her quite a bit. But besides that, ASAP is the main community organization we've worked with. Yeah.
So, technology question, especially after the previous presentation. I went to a tailgate market the other day, and they have a little device that plugs onto a tablet or smartphone that scans a credit card.
Yeah.
How much potential is there for working with let's say, that particular firm or developing something similar that can actually scan and accept the EBT cards?
Yeah. That is one thing we looked into as well, and there is a program that does that. And the only reason we didn't pursue that more is that then each farmer would have to have that device. And so, that is very plausible today, since a lot of people do have the smartphone or, an Android or an iPhone. But we wanted to kind of pursue what's already happening a little bit in the county, because rather than like changing focus completely, we wanted to work with what people already know. Yes.
I wanted to let you know that Flying Cloud Farm is part of the Clark family.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Hickory Nut Gap Meats couldn't be here today, but I'm responsible for taking them the information. So
Awesome. Thank you for being here. I appreciate that. All right, anyone else?
I'm glad that you're working with schools because, as you know from your research, the food insecurity in our county is disproportionately felt by children.
Absolutely.
And so I'd like for you to talk a little bit more about how children and their parents, children and their families, come to learn about this project.
I think that that's going to be the advertising as well. And one of the places that I have a connection with is I work with Feast, where we go into elementary schools and middle schools mostly. And we work with the kids to do cooking classes using donated local foods, and we also do gardening classes. So I think that along with the slow food movement, would be a really good way to get it out, because it's already people that a lot of the schools and especially the kids know. And so when they make suggestions or they tell kids, go home and talk to your parents about going to the market, the kids actually do it. I've seen a lot of the kids come back after learning how to make, something with collard greens or something with radishes that they never want to try. And they go home and they bring it to their parents, and then they come back the next week and tell us like, oh, everyone was so excited about it. And that week they want to bring stuff home with them. So I think that would be a good avenue for it, just because they already have a really good connection in the schools. Yes.
Would you talk a little bit about your team's participation in the system, the UNC system social business conference, and what that was like?
Yes, I can. So we went to A&T University to go to the social business competition. We watched Professor Mohammed Yudis speak, which was awesome. There was another team from UNC Asheville actually who competed as well. And so we had to go in and create a poster and then do like a 5-minute talk in front of people. And then they would narrow down. And unfortunately, neither of our teams were in the finals, but there were some really amazing projects there as well. And it was a really good experience just because it got us all to think in a way that none of us really do very typically in the health and wellness department, or at least a lot of us don't, because to be business minded, I think, is something that you have to train your mind to do, or you're lucky enough to be born with. But for us, we really had to train our minds to think in a business way, because we all came into it thinking, well, here's our social problem, and we just want to fix it, and we just want to help. And you have to actually sit down and figure out the numbers, and that's where a lot of the difficult research for me came into it, was that I didn't know where to find these numbers in the beginning, and I had to figure out who to talk to. And especially with the sliding scale, I had to come up with a way to actually estimate the number for that. So it was a really good learning experience in that sense, because I think that my brain just has been kind of tricked to work in a different way now. So I really appreciate that opportunity. Anything else? Yes.
Traveling and geographic isolation can be an issue for people in low-income communities. I'm wondering if there's thought of moving small-scale
tailgate markets to some of Asheville's public housing projects?
I'm smiling because that's what one of the other groups was kind of addressing with their program, was taking a market and making it a community-involved program in other areas. Because I agree with you. I mean, food deserts are a huge problem in this part of the state, and it's something that this tiny part of this issue doesn't necessarily address, but I think that you're very right and that it is something that needs to be absolutely addressed. And I know there are some initiatives going on in an attempt to. Thank you.
Thank you, Hillary.
Thanks.